Hello everyone, I'm Krista Escobar, an instructor from Cavite State University College of Nursing to be your moderator this evening. Before we start our webinar proper, let us put ourselves first in the most holy name of our Lord. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty Lord, we praise and thank you for the safety of everyone and for letting us gather this evening. We ask you to bless our webinar and favor us with your presence. Guide us as we fulfill our goals and align our intentions to your will. Bless our participants, they listen to our speaker, and give them the courage to ask questions and share their research experiences with us after the talk. This we pray in the most holy name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, so we are now in the last day of our 3-day webinar series in qualitative research entitled The Researcher as a Human, Protecting Human Rights and Welfare Through Appropriate Planning and Preparations. This event is an initiative of the EdCore Educational Research Center under its advocacy project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, which main aim is to help researchers, students, and professionals all over the country, especially during this pandemic. The Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, our webinar series covering the DepEd's MELCS-aligned topics for research subjects, and we, EdCore research consultants, serve as the speakers or moderators of this event. And this wouldn't be successful without the leadership of our overall project coordinators. We have Dr. Bernadette Elharde and Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carvajal. Okay, so for the overall project coordinator for the Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone, we have Dr. Bernadette Elharde. And for the Project Sagip Mananaliksik one-on-one, Dr. Adrian Lawrence P. Carvajal. Sagip Mananaliksik one-on-one, we adopt one senior high school learner from our list of student beneficiaries and assist him or her in his or her research journey. And both projects here are having their DepEd advisories. So we are very grateful for the unending support and guidance of our head research consultant, Dr. Richard De Sanchez. And I also acknowledge the presence of the national consultants, regional coordinators, provincial, division, city coordinators, and all EdCore research consultants who are present in this Zoom meeting. Let's give them a virtual round of applause. To formally start our webinar, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Girlie M. Samson. She is an assistant professor in Bulacan State University, and currently she serves EdCore as the City of San Jose Coordinator in Bulacan. Good evening, Dr. Girlie.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening to all. So, am I audible?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay, so it is with privilege to welcome and thank you all, of course, for joining and be a part of our 3rd day, The Researcher as Human, Protecting Human Rights and Welfare Through Appropriate Planning and Preparations. So, as most of you know, this virtual event focused on planning data collection, data gathering instrument, and analysis procedures and presenting written research, which is an indispensable part of one's research journey. Over the past days, we are exposed on a thought-provoking topics that help us to be more productive in the field of research. Let us always remember that at core, we are all invested in your success and look forward to the many ways in which you will enhance your research capabilities and discovery environment. At core, indeed, embracing the culture of research offer a great support system to assist each one of us. As the saying of Neil Armstrong goes, research is creating new knowledge. Being a researcher requires dedication, hard work, and a more than a little inspiration. And so without much further ado, I am eager to listen and learn, as I'm sure you are. Let's get started. And again, thank you for joining us. God bless.
Thank you for that inspirational welcome message, ma'am. Okay, so this will be our webinar flow. First, we will have the lecture, and then followed by the photo op, then the question and answer portion, and then after the webinar proper, which means after the closing remarks, the newly appointed research consultants will have their OTT. And at this point, other webinar participants will leave the webinar. Okay, so some house rules. This webinar is being recorded. Keep your microphones turned off, or you may or may not turn on your video. And for identification purposes, we highly encourage everyone to use this for identification. First, last name, and then the first name, and then the acronym of your institution. So for example, Escobar, Karen, Krista, CGSP for identification purposes. And then please use the Zoom chat box to submit your questions, which will be entertained after the talk. And lastly, the evaluation form will be posted at the end of the webinar. Make sure to answer this to help us improve our future webinars. Okay, so for our speaker this evening, we have Ms. Rolylyn H. Dado. She is a head teacher 3 at the Santo Tomas National High School, DepEd Pampanga. Okay, so let us give her a virtual round of applause. Ma'am Rolylyn, good evening po. Let me share your slides, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening po.
Good evening.
Good evening po, ma'am.
Okay, can we start na po, ma'am?
Yes, good evening. My respect to the participants and administrator of EdCore, and most importantly, Sir Richard, who has pushed me and then inspired me to share whatever it is that I have experienced with regards to teaching research. Yes, ma'am. So I assume that this is the theme that we are supposed to be having for this day 3, the researcher as a human, protecting human rights and welfare through appropriate planning and preparation. Let me just share with you this thought. Let us remember, one book, one pen, one child, and one teacher can change the world. From Malala Yousafzai, Pakistani education activist. What is this? What's the significance of this? We are all in a reading world. We are all in the nature of research. We are now all in the nature of change. In our pen, one pen, and a child, as we are, must be able to learn from all this. And this will be a better place for everyone. Let me start this initial activity for everyone who's here in our virtual floor. You have here me, myself, and I. I just would like to ask everybody, I'd like to give you, can you go back? I'd like to ask you, what is it in me, myself, and I? May I ask any participant to just give me and enlighten me about me, myself, and I? May I ask the moderator to help me out? Or will I call a participant here to enlighten me about me, myself, and I?
There's some volunteers po. There's more from our participants. Opo,
Thank
opo.
you hindi ako na-inform. You know, sometimes we have to realize things, no? We have to move further, and then we have to create things, no, before we introduce things, no? Yes, can I have Ma'am Angie, please? Ma'am Angie.
Ma'am
What is it
Ma'am
in me,
Angie.
myself and I? Yan, thank you very much. How about Ma'am Eleanor? We are talking about human, no? The human person, no? And then we associate it and the significance of which to a researcher. No? Me, myself, and I from Samson Girlie means
From
the
Samson.
version of my persona. No? The version of my persona. And let's have another one, please. Be reminded of that. No? The version of my persona, one's persona. Let us try another. Sir Ferdinand, can you help us out? Wow, Ma'am Evelyn Perry. It's qualities of self. So we have the version of your persona and the qualities of yourself. No? So I'll just again repeat it. No? Me, myself, and I. Next slide, please. Qualitative research is defined as the process. I know theoretically, since we are all research consultants here, we all know already what is it. But to 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 refresh our memory, qualitative research is defined as a process of systematically searching and arranging the interview transcripts, observation notes, or other non-textual materials that the researcher accumulates to increase the understanding of the phenomenon. The process of analyzing qualitative data predominantly involves coding or categorizing the data. Basically, it involves making sense of huge amounts of data by reducing the volume of raw information, followed by identifying significant patterns, and finally drawing meaning from data and subsequently building a logical chain of evidence. Now, this also is a design because of its flexibility and adaptability to changes in the research environment. Moreover, it creates an in-depth understanding of the attitudes, behaviors, interactions, events, and social processes that comprise everyday life from Crossman 2020. So I was like telling Doc Richard, I may not know everything about qualitative, but then this is one part that I have been teaching my external advice, So what is it even more about qualitative and how are we going to go about it? They were just like telling quantitative, qualitative, mix, experimental. Qualitative, in my opinion, is one of the most difficult, no? Most difficult research that one can process. Okay. Yes, please. Now, I'd like to specify there are so many approaches that we can work on with qualitative. But then I'd like to only give you the ones that I have been delivering and the one that I've been assisting thoroughly, that I am really have embraced so much with my external advices. Now, I'd like to focus this into the phenomenological approach, which is an approach that focuses on obtaining descriptions of the respondents' lived experiences. And according to Ari Jacobs, Razave, and Sorensen in 2006, this is the best approach at reaching the intended outcomes because it gets to the root of the experience of the individuals involved. Meaning you have to look into further, no? So what is it in them? So you just have to squeeze in them what is it that they have experienced or what is it that they've ventured into making it a realization. Yes, please. How do we collect this? No? For the data collection, it is defined as systematic process of gathering observations or measurements. Whether you are performing research, either for business, governmental, or academic purposes, data collection allows you to gain first-hand knowledge and original insights into your research problem. Now, while methods and aims may differ between fields, the overall process of data collection remains largely the same. Before you begin collecting data, of course, you need to consider the following. The aim of the research, the type of data that you will collect, and the methods and the procedure. Now, if we collect the data, it isn't just collecting. Prior to that, the most important thing that we need to do in data collection is to have to read. Reading is the most important thing in any research that we are going to make. So, either of which you know the process, but you don't know how to intensify, or you don't know how to signify and give justice to the research that you have read. The research is non-substantial. Now, the first thing that you need to do if you come up with a data collection, first you know the research, your aim. What is it that you there are those the main purpose of research, which is so disheartening, is that they just what they use it to comply. They get other people's services. They don't realize anymore the value of which that if they do it. What is your intention? Just to comply, or just to really come up with a study that will create a change towards something that you found a gap or any needs. Now, the type of data that you will collect. So it depends, it will vary on what kind of research that you're targeting to. And then the methods and the procedure. Basically, we have several similar methods and procedures, but they are varied depending on what the variable and what the needs of your research, or even you as me, myself, and I. Yes, please. These three following theories I learned from a very dear friend, Dr. Ramil Ilustre, our EPS for English. And I was like talking to him a while back when we were like discussing matters. Now, what is it really? How it is to qualify. These are the considerations in doing qualitative research. First, we have to bear in mind the do ability. Do ability, because it functions. It functions. These are considerations of feasibility possible and realistic judgment about resources, time, money, access to the site, or population of interest, or both. Researchers' knowledge and skills come into play here. Researcher must demonstrate competence to conduct a thorough, ethical, qualitative research. Now, let me go further to the feasibility. Feasibility would mean what? Can you really work on it? The time element that you're going to spend for it, how long will it take? Or do you have sufficient or related literature that will back you up? Can you work on the title, the working title that you will be presenting or you would like to finish? Also the resources. Sometimes in the RRL, you would see several, but then the point is, since the change is really growing, we have to really work on most latest research that we can adapt to assist us. There are times there's so much importance in one working title, but then the problem with the working title is that you don't have sufficient, although it's original, it's the first time that you're going to study it, but then the problem is, do you really have so much resources to work on it? Is it feasible? There's a study here in De La Salle University about literature and its phenomena, but then there's no resources, but then it's a very good study. And another one, there's this in Filipino in Assumption. The study was like, it's about blog as means of creative writing, but there is no, in Filipino there is very limited resources pertaining to that, so that wouldn't be feasible enough to work on. So that would be a problem. Now, researchers' knowledge and skills, you just don't depend on the related literature that you have gathered. The most important thing is, do you understand fully what are the resources that you have? Do you really have the skills to do it? But it's a cliche, but we always say, what you don't have, you cannot give. So it's basically reading, no? Reading pa din. And then the researcher must demonstrate competence to conduct a thorough and ethical qualitative research. You yourself, why is it that we are going into thesis, dissertation, so on and so forth, action research, exploratory research, quasi-experimental researches? What are these for? Okay, what are these for? So we have to make sure that we can demonstrate. So always be reminded, who are you as a researcher? How far have you gone through the research that you have theoretically you have absorbed? Next, please. Number 2, should do ability. A while back we say do. I have the power to do it. I am able to do it. Now, should you do it? The ability. Considerations of potential significance and ethics. Is this study likely to be useful to other researchers, policymakers, and practitioners? Are 3 major ethical pitfalls to be considered. The researcher should argue that the study will likely contribute to scholarship, policy, and or practice. What ethical issues or concerns may arise? So you know for a fact already that your study is feasible. You have that in your mind already, and that you're made to do it. Now, do you have to really do it? Will you follow such ethical consideration? Okay. Will you be able to work on it fully? Can you justify why you want it? What particular part of which that would enhance and help and provide change to the gap that you have fully discovered? Yes, please. You do the ability, should do ability, and what to do ability, want to do ability rather. These are considerations of sustained and sustaining interest researchers' engagement with the topic. Am I sufficiently committed to the learning about this topic to sustain the energy to complete it? This third set of consideration captures the importance of commitment and compelling interest to sustain the study from the design implementation to analysis to writing up the final report. So meaning, it isn't just you should do it. It should be, I want to do this. I want to make a change. I want to make a realization of what I have discovered, or what my problem is all about, or what my gap did I checked on. Okay, next. Now, to move further for the instrument of the study, this must be considered. References about designing the research instrument, a thorough analysis of various literature and books, theses, dissertation, published and unpublished, which will be used as basis in writing the interview guide or evaluation tool. You know for a fact, if it's a qualitative research, it's very important that you work on the tool of either working on specific target questions that you would like to be answered from the perspective of another person, which is aligned or partly a part of your study. Sometimes we work on people that is not basically part of the study, but to gather, whatever it is, either small or big, it will be part of the study that you're going to come up with. And afterwards, the validity of the interview guide and the evaluation tool were checked by the pool of experts. You were able to come up with a question in qualitative, and then you're going to throw it up. Now, in a no face-to-face, you will be coming up with a virtual interview or an online interview with your participant or a person that you would really want to get their perception about the topic that you would like to work on. Let's say the modular, what do they think about the modular space? How are you going to teach oral communication using the modular space or the modular approach? I have encountered a study in La Consolacion. It's about how are you going to teach oral com using the module. So you will see, you get their insights. Now, how are you going to, you just don't formulate a question. You make sure that the question you're going to raise is dealing with a particular topic so that you can get something from which. Now, after that, what do you intend to happen? Do you want to come up with an intervention or a proposed program or a change or even a curriculum innovation for that particular matter? Because in a no face-to-face, oral communication to be taught in modular is another story. Okay, even most especially in the public school, it's so difficult to deliver that one. So that we are working on technology or gadgets or sports sponsorship for our students so that it will happen. But it's far beyond that. Okay, so the validity of which we have to work on it. So there will be a pool of experts, no, to work on that. Either an English researcher or a multidisciplinary researcher or expert or guru to that effect, or a superintendent that can help you out. Align. That's one more thing. It should be aligned to what your study is all about so that you give justice. You will give justice and credibility, no? And then next po. Yes, Sir Justin, is can I just finish everything first? No? And then the things that you have to work on is the interview guide. No? This is a structured interview guide we use gathering the data. It consists of questions about what is to be studied, what must be utilized in sending the questions together with the permission letter to the participants, and of course, your evaluation tool. This is to establish the validity of the interview guide to be used in data gathering. So the experts that you chose, or somebody, an expert who have recommended and referred it to you, you will use the evaluation tool based on the expert's judgment framework. Or we have an application already. We have an application in floating in the Google that you can work on, and it's based on experimental approach also, no? I mean, it has been used several times over. It includes questions which are categorized into content, design, congruence, and feasibility. As what I have a while back stated, the descriptive evaluation of the framework was done using the Google form. You can use the Google form, which is the mostly dependently used, no, for all of us, and even in our workplace. Yes, please. The data gathering procedure. Now, of course, it's very important that we seek permission. No? Whatever it is, we give respect, even if it is not in writing. No? Even if it's just merely interviewing a person, you have to really tell them, may I interview you? And then these are the questions that I would like to raise as I interview you. Okay, so prior to the administration of the instrument of the study, the researcher asked official permission and obtained the consent of the participants. They were informed about nature, objectives, and procedure of the survey. I was just like reading this to everyone. I know you are all well-versed in this already. Now, administering the structured interview, all the participants will be asked to share insights if that is what you want from them, strategies, as well as expose issues and challenges if that's what the issue is all about, regarding the procedure implementation of the said title that you are working on. And how will it be conducted? Like the answer is either it be in a face-to-face, a Google form sheet, or any of those sorts. Yes, please. And then you retrieve the data. So the responses of the participants be retrieved using face-to-face or Google form, which were directly accessed via email or an online focus group discussion. For the participants, you get to record it. And then to clarify some points and ensure the completeness and reliability. So it's like that. You gather the data, you transcribe it, and you have to after transcribing it, you have to check it. You have to give it back to the participant so that she will agree that, okay, this is what really I was trying to say. Okay, so it's in qualitative. Our participant really is very limited because you will be really working on the what perception they have, no? And in total. Next, please. Data processing. The researcher, which is I, you, utilize the six-phase process for thematic analysis. So this is based on qualitative. So this is what I ask my external advice. This information also, I got it from an external advisee, which is from another university, which is very helpful, at least to everyone. The researcher utilized a six-phase process for thematic analysis based on the work of Juan and Clark in 2012. And according to Virginia in 2006, thematic analysis is one of the most common forms of analysis in qualitative research. It emphasizes identifying, analyzing, and interpreting patterns of meaning, or what we call themes, within qualitative data. Now, these are the things that we have to be reminded of. Number one, becoming familiar with the data. So you have come up with review-related literature. You have read so much already because that is what you need. The foundation of your research is your RRL. Now, becoming familiar with the data, what you have gathered, it's either the perception of the people and the review-related literature and the relevant theories. Now, this is the initial phase in the thematic analysis where researchers familiarize themselves with the content of their data. In order to develop potential codes, note-taking is integral in this phase. After the data collection, the researcher may need to transcribe the data into written form, the ones that I've told you a while back. And then number two, generating the codes. In this phase, items of interest in the data is tagged with a label. A few words or a short phrase will do. It is called coding, which is important for the development of the theme. Based from the research questions, relevant features of the data gathered will be identified and labeled. Similar data segments will be grouped together to be able to identify patterns. Later, I will be showing you. Yes, please. Thank you. Generating initial themes. So 1, 2, and 3. Generating the initial themes. In this phase, researchers have a list of themes and begin to focus on broader patterns in the data, combining coded data with the proposed themes. And then number 4, reviewing the themes. In this phase, the researchers have to check their initial themes against the coded data and the entire data set. This process of review allows the researcher to expand and revise themes as they develop. Yes, please. 5, defining and naming themes. Defining and refining existing themes that will be presented in the final analysis assists the researcher in analyzing the data within each theme. At this phase, the researcher will name each theme to ensure conceptual clarity, then write a brief summary of each theme, followed by number 6, producing the report. In this phase, the researcher will interpret and write a vivid analysis of what the data extracted and provide analytical conclusions drawn from the themes. So, where are we heading? Yes, please. Now, this is how it is in the initial. You have to come up with a table to familiarize with your participants. Now, I'm just giving you an example of how it is to work on your participants. Now, if it's in a qualitative research, you come up with a pseudonym or the participants that you have. Let's say if it's SHS, it's just an example. I just lifted this to an external advisee. So senior high school, teacher 1, and then teacher 2, senior high school teacher number 2, number 3, so 4 and 5. Now, as much as possible, I recommend the maximum that you have for a qualitative theme participant is just 10. That's the maximum. And the minimum, 5 or 6. And now, you just have to profile them. Even if you don't have demographic profile in the part of your qualitative, but still you have to profile them. And then you look into the alignment, the justification that they will be delivering. They will give you the insight that you will be needing for your study. Alignment is very important. And then, of course, the teaching experience. Because in this particular case, the reason why it was brought up, because they would like to see the difference between those who have taught so many years already to the youngest no, of the participants.
Ready na nga yan.
Yes, please.
Kim, sabihin mo yung pagkain ready na.
Next, please. Now, so to just give an idea of themes, which I know you have from research HUD, themes are features of participants' accounts, characterizing particular perceptions and or experiences that researcher sees as relevant to research question. For example, you have thrown a question to your participant, which you have a question which is truly validated. For example, what have you experienced with regards to your learning preparation? So you're focusing on learning preparation. Now, you would like to have checked and worked on accumulatively the responses of your participants. What is the commonality of such replies and perceptions? And that will become your theme. And then the variables. Okay? We all know for a fact what variables are, but then in a qualitative research, the use and the terminology can sometimes raise so many questions, like presented in next a little later in my followings. Next slide. In the second column, later I will be showing you. Either it's a cause as an independent variable or dependent variable. Now, if it's an independent variable, so you will see it's a qualitative variables, it's qualitative research, the use of terminology. No? And then next, please. That is for your independent. Sorry, and then to move on further, independent can either be experimental, manipulated, treatment, or grouping. And that factor which is measured, manipulated, or selected by the experimenter to determine its relationship to an observed phenomenon. Okay, so it will really vary on what set of questionnaires you're going to raise from them. Okay, next. I'm sorry for that. In a research study, an independent variable, can you go back, please? Sorry. An independent variable or antecedent conditions that are presumed to affect the dependent variable. They are either manipulated by researcher or observed by the researcher so that their values can be related to the dependent variable. So sometimes you just check on the significance or the correlation from one to the other based on their lived experiences, no? Or what they have worked on or transcribed. No? And then move on, please. And then we have the dependent. So dependent or outcome variable. The factor which is observed and measured to determine the effect of the independent. That factor that appears or disappears or varies as the experimenter either introduces, removes, or varies the independent variable. In a research study, the independent variable defines a principal focus of your research interest, and so on and so forth. By Jaeger, 1990. Okay, let's move on. Now, this is what I'm trying to explain a while back. So, the interview that you have set to your participants and you have collated their responses, you have fully transcribed them. After transcribing them, you have returned it back to them. They have approved it and then they'll go back to you. So there are applications that I just cannot mention everything, no? in Google that can do an application for thematic. No? But then if you yourself would like to experience thematic working on it, no, by yourself. So theme, for example, your variable is lesson preparation. Okay. So for example, your statement of the problem is that in terms of, okay, how are you going to teach oral communication using modular? And then in terms of the lesson preparation, how can you work on it? Now, the things that came about, no? So it's curriculum planning, you worked on curriculum planning and designing, competency-based instruction, utilization of online resources, the things that will be needing, restrictions and limitations, and challenges, stressors. But targeting the description for the following, target areas to be focused, lessons shall be based on learners' competency. So teachers utilize available online resources, such as presentations, video lesson, links to be included in the module, and modular distance learning has limitations and restrictions such as human-to-human connections. And then for the challenges, modular distance learning is a challenge to teachers. It creates health-related issues. So you will notice how it is to work on. No? So from the gathered interviewed and the commonalities from the gathered interview based on in terms of letter A, which is lesson preparation, this came about. This was the commonalities for the lesson preparation. Okay, let's move on, please. Now, if we assume that that is the table two, no? When the participants were asked on how may the lived experience of teachers affect modular modality in terms of lesson preparation, the most identified factors will be, for example, you have 5 number of participants. So that's how it will be the equivalent. N equals to 5. Where curriculum and designing, competency-based instruction, utilization of online resources, restriction and limitation and challenges, stressors. So you have to put it there, what the themes are based on your the transcribed interview that you've had. So and then since the first thing, the first thematic that was able to appear was the curriculum and design. Now you lift the curriculum and design, and from there you have to come up with a review on related literature pertaining to the lesson preparation with regards to curriculum design. Now, by Drake and Land, I'm just giving you an example from Drake, Land, and Kleminski in 2014, stated that the common premise in all these teachers, the ones that he used for those study and curriculum development practices, is that collaborative design positively affects both professional development and curriculum implementation. But on the other hand, according to Coburn, Russell, Kaufman, and Stein in 2012, explained that the emphasis is on curriculum innovation and professional development considered as conditional process. From both perspectives, it is believed to be necessary to continually and actively engage teachers in the process of learning to become effective curriculum developer or development in order to contribute to their professional development. So you will see, you have to justify that curriculum design is far most important, no? Because that is what occurred or what appeared in your thematic. Now, how are you going to go about it? So you have presented those already, no? You have presented your qualitative. Now, you have the teacher participants' lived experiences. No? So you will notice the effect of modular in terms of, so the first variable that came about is about the lesson preparation. How are you going to conclude that based on your related literature? So it is very evident most teachers resorted in identifying the curriculum and design for the purpose of adapting to the new teaching and learning. Such curriculum may follow the competency needed by the students, which teacher participants made sure to follow. And also, the utilization of the varied online resources paved way in the construction of activities and tasks to meet the competency from the lesson derived. And finally, the challenges and the stressor in the new normal was embraced fully. Okay? So, the one that we...
Hello, ma'am. Nawalan po yung audio ko.
sorry. The one that was asked about by Sir, no, about the conceptual framework. Hold on po.
progress.
Ma'am Kay,
Po.
naglag lang daw sandali yung internet ni ma'am. Pwede mo bang pakilagay doon
Okay
sa
po.
slide doon sa pinaka theme ng 3-day series na ito? Mag-share lang ako ng
Okay
konti
po.
habang inaantay natin si ma'am.
Sige po, Doc.
Kung okay lang po.
Ay, opo.
Yung sa pinaka-theme po natin. Sa slide mo pa rin, ma'am. Same slide pa rin po. I think nakita ko yung tema kanina. Nandiyan po siya.
Sorry for that.
Ay, nandiyan na pala si ma'am. Nandiyan na po. Okay.
Okay na po, ma'am.
Sorry po. Sorry,
It's
sir.
okay.
Kasi po kanina, sorry, ang lakas po ng ulan dito. So, going back po dun sa conceptual framework, actually may framework po tayo for qualitative. The first thing that we have to do is yung familiarization, no po? So, the person, sometimes we need to have familiarization with our participants, the one that is really aligned for what we are working on. And then after which, whatever it is that they have, you have gotten from their perception, you have to code them. Let's, for example, the participants, you code them like senior high school teacher 1, senior high school teacher 2, senior high school teacher 3. And then, of course, generating the initial theme. Now, you get all the questions from, let's say, you have questions 1 to 5. And then in terms of, let's say, for number 1, you have A to letter E. And then you generate the theme. So the one that I've explained you a while back. Following, therefore, is review the themes. No? Does it apply? Does it apply to the things that they are working on? And then you have to go back to which if that answers the questions based on your statement of the problem. And then you go and define and naming the themes. No? So themes meaning the commonality, and then you come up with a phrase or a sentence that would suffice the gathered perception that they've had. In the case of the one that I presented you a while back, it's about the curriculum design based on the lesson preparation. Imagine the lesson preparation is the term that you would like to expand, but then it came about with the curriculum design. So most of the answers of the participants were like focusing on the curriculum design. But then your focus was like lesson preparation. So you need to know how to connect them. No? And then you produce the output. So that's basically about it. And then from then, you work on the result of your qualitative. And then you have to finish, of course, you have to finish all the questions that you've had. And then you have to concentrate on the following questions that you were able to get the perception of your participants. Yes po. And then next, please. And let's go back. If you notice, I have asked a while back regarding this, me, myself, and I. So if you try to focus on, let's say, that is your related literature, what was the difference, the significance of the first me, myself, and I compared to this me, myself, and I now that I'm presenting you? May I ask again, a while back, I think it's Ma'am Girlie po ba? Yung a version of myself. Can
Yes,
I
po,
ask
ma'am.
her again? Can I ask her again? What's the significance and the difference between the one that I have asked you a while back with the variable me, myself, and I?
Ma'am Girlie.
Yes, ma'am. Because sometimes, no, we have to fully analyze what is the connection of one over the other. No? It's very important that you know the connection of one over the other. Now, if I go back, it's me, myself, and I. What's the difference and the significance, no, between the first set of me, myself, and I to this part? What was the difference that you've noticed? Anyone po would like to be to share? So you will see what is significance, what is relationship, what is connection, what is justification. What makes human a researcher? What makes the researcher the human? And may I ask po ulit, the other one, who said parang yung self, no?
Si
The
Ma'am
wholeness
Evelyn
in you,
po.
no? Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ma'am Evelyn. Good evening po.
Realizing after your discussion, ma'am, I realized that the I, myself, and I is what you have discussed about the considerations in doing qualitative research like do, ability, should do, and want to do. So, na-relate to yun kung pwede, ang do is me, should is myself, and want to do is I.
Yes, ma'am.
Yun lang
Exactly po. Yes, Ma'am Evelyn. A virtual club for Ma'am Evelyn. So you will notice the research is always just you, no? It's always us. It's us. It's not them. It's us. Okay, you have related literature, but how are you going to contextualize it? So that's you. And then how are you going to go about it? It's still yourself, no? As a human person. And then how are you going to conclude it? Based on their perception? No. It is based on your full understanding from start to finish. That makes it the I. And from there po, thank you very much. That ends my presentation for qualitative research.
Thank you very much po, Dr. Ronnie. Allow me to share my slide first. So again po, ma'am, thank you very much po for that very insightful talk. And ayun, so maybe consider the use of these three abilities in qualitative research: the do ability, the should do, and the want to do ability. Okay, so I'm sure that our participants will be able to develop their methodology in the right way, using the right instrument and applicable data collection and analysis. Okay, so for the participants and core research consultants, let us first have our photo op. So kindly turn on for your video for a while for our screenshot. And for data privacy, those who prefer to not turn on their cameras may do so. Thank you. Okay. So yun po. So wait ko lang po natin yung iba to turn on their videos. So give your best smile po. Okay, next section po. Okay, so thank you everyone. Allow me to share again for my slides. Okay, so now we will proceed with the Q&A portion. Okay, or the open forum.
Ma'am
So allow
Kay,
me to read some of the comments. Yes po, sir.
before the Q&A, kung papayagan niyo po,
Opo.
may share lang po akong konti. Sige
Ay,
po.
ako.
Since ito na rin naman po yung third day ng ating event na ito, syempre we would like to thank Ma'am Rolylyn Dado. Napakaswerte po natin na isa po siya sa mga assets ng EdCore Educational Research Center. Kaya po alam niyo po yan po ay in demand kahit saan. Alam, napaka-busy niya ngayong maghapon at I am
Sir
very
Dave,
thankful.
hindi kaya dahil sorry Sir Dave, hindi kaya dahil magkaibigan lang tayo.
Siguro po. At we're very thankful po na pagbigyan po niya tayo na magsalita dito sa EdCore. Ang ating tema po para sa 3 days event na ito, I'm gonna read po. The researcher as a human, with subtitle Protecting Human Rights and Welfare Through Appropriate Planning and Preparations. Yun din po yung pinakita kanina ni Ma'am Rolylyn sa unang bahagi ng kanyang talk bago siya nagpunta sa topic niya. Ang topic kasi niya nasa bandang method section na. Magsimula doon sa paano ba ang tamang data collection, paano ba ang pagsasadya ng ating mga instrument na gagamitin when we collect data in terms of qualitative research, at iba pang mga bahagi ng method section. Ito pong ating tema na protecting human rights through and welfare through appropriate planning and preparations. Napakahalaga po nito lalo na in qualitative research. Kung minsan kasi sabi ko nga, ang isang magaling na researcher, ang isang magaling na mananaliksik, hindi ka lang basta sugod ng sugod. Hindi ka lang inquire ng inquire, gano. Hindi po kasi ganon. May tamang pagpaplano. Merong tamang kaya nga sabi natin, ang researcher kailangan lumitaw yung pagka-human niya. Hindi ka lang researcher na researcher. Hindi lahat ng gusto nating alamin ay dapat nating malaman. Hindi lahat ng gusto mong pasukin ay pwede kang pumunta doon na sumugod ka. We have to remember that researchers are humans. Therefore, kung humans ang mga researchers, including their participants are humans as well. Therefore, kung ganito pala tayo, ganito pala ang nature natin, kailangan po planuhin talaga natin ang pagko-conduct ng research natin. Kung minsan kasi sa kagustuhan nating malaman ng mga bagay-bagay sa pamamagitan ng research, ay nakakasakit na pala tayo ng kapwa. Baka kasi naiisip natin na lalo na po sa qualitative research, alam nyo yung maghanap ka ng mga sensitibong mga paksa, mga sensitive topics sa qualitative research. Dito natin pinag-uusapan yung buhay ng mga tao, yung in-depth stories nila. Kaya dapat maging very careful po tayo. Tamang pagpaplano para po maprotektahan natin yung human rights ng hindi lamang ng mga participants, including tayo, researcher, para po maprotektahan natin yung mga participants natin. Siyempre, wag din po natin kakalimutan ang sarili natin. Baka in the process of conducting research, being humans ang mga participants natin, we're trying to protect them, pero nakakalimutan din nating protektahan ang sarili natin. So yun lang po siguro yung gusto kong ipunto sa tema na ito. Kaya nga po ang discussion ni Ma'am Rolylyn, paano ba dapat gawin ang data collection, paano ba dapat mag-collect gamit ang isinadya mong instrument para sa qualitative research, ay napakahalaga po nito. Sa research po, either qualitative or quantitative man yan. Specifically for qualitative research, when we're talking of human stories, human experiences, napakahalaga po na tamang preparations po talaga so we can really protect human rights and human welfare. Maraming salamat po. Back to you po, Ma'am Kay.
Thank you po, Doc Richard. Okay, so allow me to read some of the comments or questions in our chat box. First question po from Sir Justin. Is conceptual framework po a part also of chapter 1 for qualitative research like that for quanti po?
Ma'am Karen, please, I'm sorry, I didn't get that clearly.
Okay na po. From Sir Justin Padua, is conceptual framework po a part also of chapter 1 for qualitative research like that for quanti po?
Methods po, no? Conceptual framework. No, kasi there are cases. Now let me just give you a concept. No, there are universities. They have different kinds of format the way they present things. Now, there are those that goes with the conceptual framework in the first part, but there are those who work on it on the second part. Now, either which, the most important thing is you know how to frame the activities that you're going to do with regards to the qualitative, with regards to coming up with information, with regards to planning, what process are you going to work on? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, so another po ma'am from Rock Angel Hamoral. Ma'am, I don't know if it's ma'am or sir. Okay, thank you ma'am for that very informative talk. I have learned a lot about qualitative research. I just would like to ask some questions about the topic. Her or his first question po, in presenting the themes, is it necessary to report how many participants mentioned a certain quotation or theme in the research results and discussion part? Ulitin ko po, in presenting the themes, is it necessary to report how many participants mentioned a certain quotation or theme in the research results and discussion part?
It's very important you have whatever summary you have, it balances the participants. But then, for example, you have 5 participants in a qualitative research. Those 5 participants may not answer the same thing that you have gathered. So most likely out of 5 participants, you have 3 participants who just answered and came about with curriculum design, the one that I've asked you. For example, yung sinasabi ni Sir Dave kanina, it's about human rights. The perception of another person is different from another. So let's say in terms of what? Human rights in terms of what? So there are broad aspects in human rights that you would like to tackle. So one theme will come about with the regards to the interview that you worked on. And then it doesn't necessarily follow that these are the ones that have equal footing. But then you have the one that I have told you, N equals 5. The 5 is your participants. Okay, po, out of 5, this is the theme that came about. In the case that I have, the example that I gave you, it's about the variable lesson preparation, and then ang commonality nila is curriculum design. Yun po.
Okay, another question po. How to determine if a certain... yes, sir.
Ay, sorry po. Ma'am Kay, merong kasing tanong si Doc Gina Tividad dito. Although banda pa siya dito sa dulo. Kaya lang related siya doon sa kakasagot lang ni Ma'am Rolylyn. Pwede kayang pakitanong muna rin itong kay Doc G? Kasi para, I think, connected or similar siya doon sa kasalukuyang pinag-usapang tanong. Thank you po.
Okay po. Thank you po, Doc. Is it right to count the frequency of the respondents' responses based on theme? If yes, can we interpret it similar to a quantitative research? Thank you po. That's from Doc G. Natividad.
Okay po. Let me just remind you po, quantitative is also like qualitative. There is an analysis of which there will be an expert to come up with a thematic analysis that will come out with that particular research that we're going to have. Now, it's up to you how to justify and check the validity of which based on the researches that you are going to follow through, based on the thematic result that came about. So in my case, I told you that N equals to 5. So the 5 is your participants. How many should be there? So yung validity, it's always based on still on numbers and perceptions na nakalagay doon, but it doesn't necessarily follow that you expose or you don't expose. But in that particular case, yun yung lumabas eh. Yun yung lumabas nung semantic analysis eh, based on a certain application.
Ma'am Kay, may I add to that? Alam niyo po, nag-comment nga ako kanina sa chat box. Sabi ko napakagandang tanong nung tinanong ni Doc G. In relation din dun sa tinanong ng isa pa nating participant kanina. Although sabi ko interested akong malaman, meron kasi akong konting alam pero syempre pag qualitative research kasi lalo nang pinag-uusapan, iba-ibang background din na depende rin sa university. Meron kasi akong alam na university, sabihin na lang natin na University X. Itong si University X, ganun ang ginagawa niya. Meron siyang doon yung mga responses, yung mga teams, binibilang nila kung ilan ang nag-respond ng ganito, gaano kadalas na yung participant ganito yung response nila. Tapos dinugsong pa ni Doc G doon sa tanong niya, if that is the case, kung palang binibilang natin yung mga responses, can we also interpret them as the way we interpret quantitative study? Ako kasi unang-una, medyo nawiwirduhan ako doon sa mga binibilang yung mga responses na yon kasi we're talking of qualitative research eh. 'Di ba? We are interested doon sa lalim ng kwento, doon sa lalim ng pinag-uusapan. Para kasi sa akin, ito ay personal ko lamang na pananaw. Kasi sa akin, when you count the responses, parang somehow ay nililid mo yung study papunta sa quantitative research. Ang sinasabi naman nitong si University X na encounter ko, hindi naman sa ganon. Binibilang mo lang para malaman mo, kumbaga, para mapatibay mo yung credibility ng study, para maano mo na yung study ay ganito nga pala, dito papunta yung mga responses nila. Although sa isip ko, gusto kong sabihin, ang qualitative research ba, hindi ba niya kayang tumayo sa sarili niyang paa para maging credible to the point na kailangan niya yung counting from quantitative research para makatayo siya. Para kasi sa akin, quali can stand on its own. Kaya lang dun nga sa mga nakikita natin, minsan nakaka-experience tayo na qualitative responses, kinakount sila, at tapos para nagiging kasama ng mga sa part ng discussion yung bilangan kung ilan ang nag-respond nito. Na para sa akin, bakit gano'n ang study? Kaya nga quali siya, pero papunta siya sa ganoong paraan ng kwentuhan. But of course, that is only my opinion at yun. Sige po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Yes, thank you very much. That's it. If you will go back to my slide, you will see there is a reference regarding to that n equals to 5. Right? So yun na nga ang danger sa research eh. Yung you don't dwell much on your opinion. You just have to base your structure on a previous research also. And then from there you justify. Now, pag sinabi mong qualitative, kailangan mong i-check yung responses. Una, kailangan mong malaman kung sumagot silang 5. Kung hindi, nawawalan ka ng significance doon sa relationship ng study mo, nung tanong mo, hindi mo makuha. At least makita mo doon sa isang tanong, ito yung karamihan na sinabi nila. So makikita mo yung qualifier mo, descriptive qualifier mo, based on their perception, makita mo pare-pareho sila ng tinakbo ng konsepto. In that particular case, you will notice it's lesson preparation, but it came about curriculum design ang focus ng learning preparation nila. See, so you have to really account each and every responses. So, it doesn't necessarily mean kinount mo number 1, si SST1, ito yung sinagot niya, hindi to kasama. SST2, ito yung sinagot niya, hindi siya kasama. It's very difficult to come up with your own opinion if you are not backed up by a research, either a relevant theory or a related literature for that particular stand that you have. That's the essence of research, no? Let's say I'm not a credible person. I just started working on a research pero matalino ako. Example, hypothetical, matalino ako. Pero that doesn't give me credibility still kasi wala pa naman akong na-produce, right? But I know theoretical. This is how I understood it. But the gurus know well because the research have been lifted from the works that they have researched well and they've worked on. Di po ba?
Thank you po, ma'am. Another question po. How to determine if a certain quotation or theme is to be counted in the study? If, for instance, only few participants quoted that certain theme, not even a majority. Again po, ma'am, how to determine if a certain quotation or theme is to be counted in the study? If, for an instance, only few participants quoted that certain theme, not even a majority.
Okay. For example, we have five participants, and then from the five participants, three responded. Let's say my point about lesson preparation is curriculum design, and another expressor thought came about curriculum design. So you don't discredit the three, but then you have to consider the commonality. That curriculum design was the response from both participants. Kasi or else, if we will work on the discrediting or accrediting one over the other, we will be able to come up with a research. So the bottom line here is pick up the perception, pick up the responses based on the question, and then, di ba nga, may process tayo, review, and then you report. Okay? The one that you have gathered, you transcribe, you give it back, and then you get their responses, and then you review it. Will that fall to the statement of the problem? Or else you're a failure, right? Or else you have to recall your justification, your researches, because you don't have enough evidence to prove your worth or your working title. Eh. If that's the case, you have to revise. You yourself have to change. Because you weren't able to pass in what it's that you wanted. Di ba the reason why we are researching to justify the need for that particular question? And if you're not satisfied and you cannot justify those according to what you have gathered, so you have to work another. You have to make a thorough research or come up with an extension of this study.
Ma'am Kay, nakamute ka.
Okay, thank you for the free chart. So, thanks po again, Ma'am Rolylyn. From Ma'am Rock Angel, thank you so much for your response. And then from Ma'am Evelyn Maperi po, thank you, Ma'am Rolylyn, for sharing your expertise and new learning I had. Thank you, Edgar. And then from Sir Dave Prudence, thanks po, Ma'am Dado. And then another question po from Ma'am Cynthia Marcos Sanchez. Good evening, ma'am. How many participants will you recommend for a phenomenological research? Thanks po.
Okay.
Ayun.
You know, I told you, no, katulad din po ng sinabi ni Sir Dave, quantitative, qualitative, yung qualitative, ako po qualitative, dyan po ako talaga nagbubuhos ng atensyon po, no, sa qualitative phenomenological. 10 is the maximum. 10 is the maximum, minimum of 5. If it's a master, and depending nga po sa panel ninyo, no? Pero if I were to be asked, 10 would be enough kasi napakahirap po, kasi you will get everything from start to finish, and the responses of the theme, accord mo yung related literature to what has came about, yun yung mahirap. And then a-analyze mo talaga paano tong lumusot. Paano ito yung lumabas doon sa pag-aaral. Paano mo siyang i-connect para ma-justify mo or para hindi mo na siya uulitin. Huhugutin mo kung paano niya. If you need to go back to di ba yung familiarization? Remember doon sa sinabi kong part of the framework, familiarization. Kung kailangan mong bumalik para maintindihan mo siya, bumalik ka. Yung ini-interview mo para ma-justify mo yung sagot mo. So 10 is the maximum and 5 would be the minimum.
Ma'am Kay, Pwede mo bang pakibalikan yung second question ni Miss Hamoral?
Nakamute po pala ako.
Yung second question ni
Opo.
Miss Hamoral, mag-follow up
Yung
lang ako.
Opo. How to determine if a certain quotation or team
Opo.
is to be counted in the study if for an instance only a few participants quoted that certain team, not even a majority.
Nung nagbibigay po ako ng talk sa isang college dito sa Pampanga, tinanong din po yan ng, actually ang nagtanong ay isa sa mga mismong organizers ng event. Sabi niya, although hindi ka mukha kapareho ng paraan ng pagkakatanong ni Miss or Mr. Hamoral, pero ang tanong niya ganito, Sir, paano po kung isa lang ang nagsabi, pwede ba nating i-consider na team na yon? 'Di ba sa mga emerging teams, ang basehan natin isa kung may mga nagsasabi nito tapos nakita mo na parang lumilitaw ito sa study, nag-emerge ito, then that is a team. Pero kung isa lang ang nagsabi, mako-consider mo ba siya na team pa rin, na isang tema pa rin na nag-emerge doon sa study? Ako ang opinion ko, yes. Unang-una kasi, at the end of the day, qualitative research is not about bilangan kung ilan ang nagsabi. Maaaring hindi na, halimbawa kung 5 yung mga participants mo, yung 4 hindi nila binanggit, yung pang-5 binanggit niya, pero itong binanggit niya na quotation na ito or team na ito halimbawa, or statement niya kung saan nakabuo ka ng team, galing lang dun sa isa na yon, ay makakatulong para mas maintindihan mo yung isang study. Therefore, para sa akin, kahit na siya lang ang nagsabi, kahit hindi ito sinabi ng 4 pang mga participants, then pwede siyang ma-develop as a team. Kasi kapag tinanong ka nun, tatanungin ka ng panel member mo or ng advisor mo, paano naging team ito? Isa lang ang nagsabi. Alam mo na noon, ibig sabihin no, ng panel member mo or advisor mo, nandun siya sa direction na binibilang niya kung ilan ang nagsabi nito para ma-consider mo that this is one team. Para kasi sa akin naman from the perspective ng isang siguro sabihin na nating fan ng qualitative research, it's not about the bilangan kung ilan ang nagsabi. It's a matter of importante yung part na yon at nagkataon siya lang ang bumanggit noon. So bakit mo kailangang i-omit yon kapag nag-present ka ng these are the themes of the study and then inumit mo yung isa na yon dahil isa lang ang nagsabi? I think merong nawawala doon sa study mo kung inumit mo yon by reason of siya lang ang nagsabi. Yun lang po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Thank you very much, sir. Kanina po may nag-pop up dito, no? According to Creswell, daw 5 to 25 participants. So parang nawawala. Kung yung tanong po kasi sa akin kung ilan yung po pwedeng gamitin na participants, that was the question. So ako po, sabi ko nga minimum of 5. If I am the advisor, I would be just putting up to 10. So nakalagay doon under kay Creswell 1998, 5 to 25. So hanggang doon sa 25, pwede mo siyang magamit. Pwede kang kumuha ng participants. So according to Creswell, hindi niya sinabing 4, 3, 2, 1 na participant. Ang sabi niya, 5 to 25. So you have asked me, kasi meron po akong mga in-advise po na it happened as an external advisor. Pumayag naman po yung panel na gamitin nga yung 5 to 10. Minimum of 5, maximum of 10. So nagamit naman po yung 10. In a university, I will not anymore state, no po.
Thank you po, ma'am. Si Doc.
Thank you po.
Edesa po, nag-raise po yata ng hand.
Okay, tama naman po si ma'am and then tama din naman po si sir na yun nga, yung kay Creswell. It's either 5 and then more than 5 and more than 5. Ang ano lang po natin, wag po natin kakalimutan na may saturation point po ang ang pagpili po ng mga respondents natin when it comes to body. Ayun po. Kaya medyo maliit po siya. Okay? And then kaya po ganun lang din kaliit is that whatever findings that you're going to have for qualitative will only speak for your participants. Hindi siya pwedeng i-generalize. Kaya gano'n na siya ka-liit. Ayun. Whether that is 5 to 25 or that is 10, make sure na nyo po, na-reach nyo po yung saturation point para po hindi tayo nako-question kung ilan ba yung dapat when you are using Fino. Sorry, hindi ko talaga siya mabigkas. Yung Fino po. Ayan po. Salamat po.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for that rejoinder, no. Let me just give you as an advisor, no po. As an external advisor. Ako po kasi, if I give advice, I'm not that there are flaws, no po. But always ako po, I am always grounded by what the advisor, the internal advisor is asking the student, or the panelist is asking student, or the panelist is suggesting to the student. I'm always on that particular ground. I am always in that particular ground. Now, if you were to ask me, because I have worked for a quali, talagang minamaximize ko as much as possible. Hanggang 10, tama yung sabi ni Ma'am Ines, kasi talagang yung saturation, kasi it will take you forever if you are going to, let us be reminded, may timeline tayo. May timeline tayo. When do you wish to graduate? When are you going to present this? Where are you going to come up with the final defense? So that itong merong estudyante hinahabol na lang niya yung oras niya so that she can work it out. Pero ito, actually it happened to me po in I'm very proud naman po. I like to express university, college po dito din sa Pampanga. Wherein I was told yung title ko, gawin ko daw mixed method. Because I am catching up with my time, sabi ko I wish to have a quantitative instead of qualitative and quantitative. Why? Kasi nga I'm bound with time. Now kung mixed method, kailangan mong tapusin si qualitative, kailangan lumabas yung result ni qualitative para makausad ka sa quantitative. So you see, there are so many things that I have to take notice of. So with regards to the number, whatever it has been told me to work on or to advise, that's how I will just be giving to my advisee.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, since you mentioned po about the mixed method, meron po kasing follow-up si Sir Justin Padua about that. Hindi po ba consider the mixed method na siya if you count the frequency of answers?
Frequency of answers, we never...
Ito doon sa ating question kanina.
Theme po tayo, no? Yung theme na kinuha natin. So, yung theme na lumabas, yung curriculum design ang lumabas dun sa particular na lesson preparation.
Ma'am Kay.
Kasi mag-statistics ka dyan di ba?
Yes po, Doc.
Ma'am Lee, nang tinatanong kasi nung si Sir, ano pangalan doon, Ma'am Kay?
Justin Padua.
Sir Justin. Di ba kasi kanina pinag-uusapan natin yung binibilang mo, ilan ang nag-response. Pag bang binilang mo raw yung mga ganoon, hindi ba nagiging mixed method na? Sagutin ko na rin, no, ma'am. Hindi naman, Sir Justin. Kasi unang-una, you just count. By merely counting the responses does not make it a mixed method. Because for it to become a mixed method, there should be another method. At ang another method na tinutukoy natin, which is of course quantitative research, ay hindi lang nakukuha sa bilangan. Hindi lang siya ganun kababaw na nag-count ka, magiging mixed method na siya. Para maging mixed method siya, kailangan talaga pinlano mo na meron siyang quanti part, quali part, o kaya vice versa na pwedeng depende sa sequence niya. Masyado pong malawak ang kailangan mo, masyadong maraming efforts ang dapat mong gawin para masabi mo na ang isang study ay mixed method, hindi lang dahil sa yung mga responses ay na-count. Yun po. Thank you po, Ms. Kay.
Thank you po. And I think po may i-add po si Doc Edessa for the list. Yes po.
Hello. Ayun, tama yung sinabi ni Sir, no? Hindi porket po frequency count, mixed method na po, tas quali po yung susunod. Meron po tayong dapat na mga i-consider po. Tama si Sir na from the start dapat decided ka na mixed method to. Ang pag-determine if you're going to use the mixed method is hindi yung ongoing yung research. Parang gusto kong parang mixed method to. Hindi po ganon. Okay. Kailangan po sa onset po ng study, dapat po you will be able to determine if the mixed method study is actually feasible for your study. And then another thing is that the rationale of your study should be aligned with your mixed method study. And the third and the most important thing is that you will be able to identify the priority sequence and visualization of the data collection strategy and type of design for your study. So, yun yung first initial step na dapat meron ka bago mo sabihin na mag-mix method ka. And then yung number 4, doon mo lang i-determine kung ano po yung type ng mix method ang gagamitin po ninyo. Ayun po. Salamat po.
Salamat po, ma'am. From Ma'am Girlie Samson, thank you, Ma'am Rolylyn, for sharing your insights and wisdoms for us. And then from Ma'am Angie Peria, good PM. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your expertise in qualitative. I just would like to clarify about your example a while ago about conclusion. Since if you only have 5 participants, will that suffice that you can conclude such results or from the team? Halos ano rin po pala ito. Related din sa mga questions kanina. Okay po. And then, from Ma'am or Sir Hamoral po ulit, pwede po ba mag-FGD sa phenomenology or pure interview lang po? Salamat po. I have learned so much po. Salamat po.
Ma'am Karen, was that the question? Kung pwede yung FGD?
The question po is kung pwedeng mag-focus group daw po sa pheno.
If you're familiar, diba, yung familiar with your respondent, no po, halimbawa, yung alignment, pare-pareho silang senior high school teacher, the same major, and then the set of question, pwede po nag-group discussion kayo, one particular question, you can ask them. You can ask them, you're grouped together, you can ask the question that you would like to raise.
And then from Sir Justin Padua po ulit. Noted po, maraming salamat. I have learned so much from this talk, moms and sirs. Ayan po.
Salamat
and I
po.
think that's the end po. Opo. Ayan. So,
maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din po. Seasoned researcher po ng ating speaker today. And we're very grateful po na sinare po niya yung kanyang knowledge po sa atin. And ayan po, may pahabol po from our Dean po from Cavite State University, Ma'am Evelyn. Thank you so much, Ma'am Rolylyn, for all the knowledge you have shared. God bless po.
Ma'am
Thank you very much po.
Kung mapapansin,
that's the essence. Sige po. The essence po of research that's the essence of research and working with co-researchers, no? You get to learn from things, you get to envision things, and then you get to check what's missing and what's more to add.
Opo. Gusto ko rin pong i-add, kung nakikita po ninyo, no, dito po sa EdCore, meron tayong speaker, nagtanong ka, pero meron pang ibang sumasagot, no? Hindi naman po sa inaagaw nila ang trabaho ng speaker, pero alam niyo po kasi kami ay mga group of research consultants. Diyan po natin nakikita na we really live by the name research consultants. We call ourselves research consultants. So hindi lang tayo nandito para manood. Kaya nga po nakikita natin na nagsusuportahan tayo. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Lee na we learn from one another. We learn from our colleagues. Baka po kasi yung mga ibang lalo na kung first time niyo pong nag-attend ng EdCore event, bakit ganito? Bakit ganito yung ginagawa nila? Well, ganito po talaga sa EdCore because sabi ko nga we live by the name research consultants at nakikita po talaga natin na ina-apply po talaga natin iyon. Thank you po. Back to you, Ma'am Escobar.
Thank you po, Dr. Richard. Ayan po, mga participants yan. Again po si Dr. Richard pong ating head research consultant. Okay, so we'll move on with the awarding of the
Karen, I'd like to personally thank, sorry for that. I'd like to personally thank si Dr. Richard. Actually, I've been knocking on his door. Parang sir, ano ba? Since yesterday morning. And then it's just that talagang busy din siya and myself talagang, sir, can I ask you this and that? And this is very, very, cordial and generous to attend to my call.
True,
Thank you very
Opo.
much, ma'am.
Salamat din po.
Opo, ma'am. Ito po, si Doc Richard po 24/7 pwede pong abalahin. Okay po. Ayan po. So we'll now move on with the awarding of the certificate of recognition to our esteemed speaker. Okay, so allow me to read the certificate of recognition. EDCOR Educational Research Center, Santa Ana, Pampanga, Philippines presents the certificate of recognition to Rolylyn H. Dado, LPT, MPA, MA in Letters, Research Consultant, EDCOR Educational Research Center, for her invaluable time and expertise as a resource speaker in the national webinar on qualitative research of EDCOR Educational Research Center held on July 28 and August 11 and 25, 2021 and conducted under the advocacy of Project Sagip Mananaliksik for Everyone with advisory from the Department of Education. Signed, Bernadette L. Lejarde, LPT, MEGC PhD, Overall Project Coordinator, and Richard D. Sanchez, LPT PhD, Head Research Consultant. So again po ma'am, congratulations po. And sana po maulit po ulit ito. Ayun po. Okay, so by the way po, EDCOR has an official polo shirt and t-shirt. You may buy this to help us finance our future charitable activities for the education of our Filipino students. So the Blueprint Shop is the sole supplier of these shirts. It is located in Santa Rosario, Apalit, Pampanga. And the polo shirt price is 360 while the t-shirt is 260 pesos. So 30 pesos of each item will go to EDCOR's charitable activities. So note po that EDCOR is not the one selling this but the Blueprint Shop. So we have 30 pesos of each item lang po will go to the EDCOR's charitable activities. So for orders, you may contact Blueprint Shop owner Dr. Mark D. Sangil at his mobile number 0956-448-4000. So it's again, it's 0956-448-4000 and or his email address at mgsangil.0205@gmail.com. And I also posted here his Facebook account. Okay po. Yeah, so our next national webinar on quantitative research will be on September 1, 2021, and then for qualitative research, this will be on September 8, 2021. So we hope to see you there. So another invitation to everyone. Application is now open for the International Awards for Outstanding Educators and Researchers. So yeah, so feel free to access our guidelines and other pertinent documents posted in our official Facebook page. Yeah. So follow us in our FB, Twitter, and IG accounts, and also subscribe to our YT channel to watch our previous national webinars. Okay. So yeah, so at this juncture, I would like to call Mr. Ronnie T. Tariman for the closing remarks. So he is a senior high school teacher too, and also the Municipal Research Coordinator from Aleosan National High School, and also one of the EDCOR's research consultant. Sir Ronnie, good evening po.
Good evening all.
Yes po.
Yes. So we have
Sir, excuse po, hindi po clear ang audio nyo. Sir, hindi po clear ang audio po ninyo.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Dado, for inspiring message, giving inputs on how to enrich qualitative research. So, during the discussion, it seems that The participants are very eager and knowledgeable about qualitative research. So the inputs and informations provided by the speakers will really help a lot the ethical consultants. So to all, thank you very much.
Ma'am Kay, nakamute ka raw.